Now we have reached the Payroll module. The Payroll module is only accessible to the super admin. In the Payroll module, we can see the payroll period, payroll process, salary components, payroll reports, and salary slips. First, we need to create the salary components. When we click on Salary Components, we see two tabs, Salary Rules and Salary Components. Salary rules work based on salary components, so we need to create the salary components first. Let's create the salary components and give it a name, such as allowance. We have named it allowances. For the calculation type, we can select either a fixed amount or a percentage. Here, let's select the percentage. Next, we choose the type. We can select either deduction or allowance. Since we named it allowances, we will choose the type allowance. Here is the value, which will be in percentage. We can see the percentage symbol here. Let's enter the 5%. When we click on absent text, we can also add the absent text as needed. The absent tax will be calculated based on the absence. If an employee has been absent for 1, 2, or 3 days in a month, the tax will be calculated accordingly. When we click on Create Components, we can see that the salary component has been created successfully. The value is set at 5%, and the status is active. Here we also have the option to edit or delete the component. Now, let's move to the salary rules. In the salary rules section, we can add the salary name. For example, we can enter a name like allowances or choose something like employee. We can also enter a name here, such as employees' launches. In the description field, we can add some description. From here, we can choose the component, which is the salary component we have created. We can select the component. The salary rules will be created based on the selected component. For example, if we select allowances and want to enter a specific value to override, the salary component value will be overridden. For instance, we have set the value to 5%. If we enter 2 or 3% here, it will override the existing value. We do not want to override it. From this section, we can also select the department. For example, we can choose which department this rule should apply to. Here, we will select the department and then choose the position. If we want to implement this rule for all positions, only for employees, managers, or another group, we can select that here. In this case, we will apply it to all positions. Now we click on Create Rules. As we can see, the rule has been created. The positions are set to all, and the department values, component allowance name, employee name, and salary rule name are all displayed. This covers the rules and the components. If we want to create a rule for absent text, we simply click on Absent Text. This will also create a component for absent text. Here we can set the value based on a percentage or a fixed amount. We will choose to use a percentage. For example, we can enter 2.5%. As we can see, the another component is created. The type is deduction, the calculation type is percentage, and the value is 2%. We can also create the rule for this. For example, we can name it Employee Absence Absent Rule and add the description. Next, we select the component, which will be absent X percentage. Here, we can also override the value and choose the department and the position. The position will be set to all. Finally, we hit the Create Rule button. In this way, we can create rules, and these rules will be applied when we process the payroll. So now that we have created the salary component and the salary rules, let's create a payroll period. When we click on Payroll Period, we can create a new period from here. For the period name, we can enter something like December 2025. Then we set the start date and the end date. The start date will be here, and this will be the end date. From here, we can select the pay date, for example, January 5th. Then we click on Create Payroll Period. As we can see, this is the total gross amount. Since we have selected the currency type for our company as USDT, the amount will be calculated in USDT. Currently, this company has 3 employees. The status is drafted because the payroll period has not been calculated yet, and the net pay has not been calculated yet either. So it will show the gross amount, which is overall $159,999. Now, let's process the payroll. To process the payroll, we navigate to the Process Payroll page. From here, we select that payroll period. On the review settings, we can also select rules, such as the absent rule or allowance. We would like to add the allowance rule. The department will be the IT department, and we can choose whether to include text. For now, we do not want to include text. Then we click on Next, and after that, we click on Start Processing. This will start calculating the overall salaries, apply deductions, and generate the payroll. As we can see, the payroll has now been calculated successfully. We can also go to the payroll reports. So from here, as we can see, there are only 2 employees whose payroll has been calculated so far. Both employees are in the IT department, as the rule was only for IT department. The payroll that has been calculated includes the total payroll and the average salary. The total deduction is 0 because we haven't applied any deductions. For the allowance, we applied 5%. So the 5% allowance becomes $799.95. Now, we can also export the Excel report and the PDF report. Let's click on the Excel report. Here we can also see the Excel report. Now, as the report has been generated, we can see the gross salary for both employees. One is the manager and the other is an employee, both in the IT department. We can view the basic salary, the gross salary, the net pay cash, and the net salary. Let's move to the salary slips. Now, we have navigated to the salary slips page. Here we can see that 2 pay slips have been generated. The email status shows 0, which means we haven't sent them by email yet. We can also preview the slips. Here, we see the basic salary, the allowance, and the deduction, which is 0. The total deduction is 0 since we haven't applied any deduction. This is the net salary for these employees. For example, the basic salary was $14,999, and the net salary became $11,754.99 after applying the allowances. For the other employee, we can also see the slip. We can see the basic salary, the allowance of $500. This section covers everything about payroll, including how we can manage and add an employee's payroll, as well as view detailed reports. We can also see the detailed report for each employee here. This includes the employee name, basic salary, allowance, deduction, gross salary, and net salary. That is what we have in the payroll section.